Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 6 Risk Management Q. We want to present about risk management and CGC evaluation of PT AirAsia Indonesia Tbk. The member of Group 6 is 1. Anjsa Luthfiah Amalia, NRP 013, Salsabila Usra, NRP 025, Tifany Hasyana Putri, NRP 030, Septianti Laili Sofiana, NRP 037, and Alvira Nessia Putri, NRP 080. Outline of this presentation is 1. Chapter 1, Explanation and Condition. Chapter 2, Risk Assessment. Chapter 3, Solution. Chapter 4, Good Corporate Governance. And the last, Chapter 5, Summary and Recommendation. First, definition of subsector. One of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic caused air travel in 2020 to plummet and cause severe shock to the air transportation industry. This condition in the organization a significant decline in all indicators such as a 65% decrease in passenger kilometer revenue according to International Air Transport and USD 70 billion decline in the global civil aviation industry according to a report by International Civil Aviation. Next.
Okay, so this is the company profile. Actually, PT AirAsia Indonesia is officially a parent company of PT Indonesia AirAsia. Starting 29 December 2017, PT AirAsia Indonesia, previously PT Rima Multiputra Pratama, is a public listed company in the Indonesia Stock Exchange. Change of company name from RMPP to AAID has been approved by the Ministry of Law and Human Rights of the Republic of Indonesia. And the company, Air Transport Industry, an efficient enterprise, the company has one head office and operates 13 service and sales offices located throughout Indonesia's main cities. The company is steadfastly committed to delivering satisfying services to all customers and business enterprises. Okay, so the next one is about the main business activity. Business management and administration consultation, corporate management consultation, providing consultation, recommendation, and operational assistance, planning, supervising, evaluation, and business development strategy, and as well as related business activity and consultation in relation with aviation and airport services. Every type of activities in service except business service related to legal and taxes. And the third one, performing non-businesses activity, the company can exercise investment on other companies, both domestic and overseas, by taking into account the prevailing laws and regulations. And the next one, this is the AAID organizational structure and IAA organizational structure.
The next is current condition of PT AirAsia Indonesia. So based on annual report data, it can be known that PT AirAsia Indonesia experienced a business loss of 2,800 billion in 2020. When compared to 2019, PT AirAsia Indonesia experienced an operating profit of 100 million in 2019. This is a direct result of the restriction of community activities in all aspects of life. Next. For share price and trading volume on 2020, the opening price, the highest price, the lowest price, and the closing price have the same price, which is to 184, and there is no volume of transaction. For the shareholder composition, the shareholder of PT AirAsia Indonesia in 2020 are mostly owned by AirAsia Investment. That's 49%, while the public shareholders are 1%. Okay.
Next, in chapter 2, we want to analyze risk assessment. First is risk identification using formal method. In terms of the formal method used for risk identification, namely information from the analysis of the company's annual report for a period of 5 years, from 2016 into 2020. In this regard, PT AirAsia Indonesia Tbk has compiled and presented information related to several main risks faced by the company. The summary of the main risk comparison table of PT AirAsia Tbk can be explained in detail as follows. This is the summary of main risk comparison PT AirAsia Indonesia Tbk from 2016 into 2020.
Okay, so the next is the risk identification of PT AirAsia Indonesia Tbk. From the first one is for the main risk is full price risk. So actually the risk of this main risk is aircraft full price fluctuation with the risk code A1, and we have the risk agent. This is the monopoly on fuel prices by PT Pertamina and the distribution of inefficient fuel. And the loss of this risk is increased aircraft fuel price, which the risk type is financial risk.
The second main risk is foreign currency risk, which risk rupiah exchange rates fluctuation, and the risk code is B1. The risk agent of this risk is the increase in the value of the rupiah depreciates, and the loss of this risk is increase in rental prices and other debts, and the risk type is financial risk. The third is liquidity risk. The risk code for C1 is cannot meet liabilities at maturity, and risk agent is failure to pay due debt, and the loss for this risk is company bankruptcy decision, and the risk type is financial risk. The risk code for C2 is unhealthy cash flow. The risk agent is cash flow failure to meet operational needs, and the loss is operational activity stop. For the risk type is financial risk.
The next is about credit risk. The risk is instrument failed to meet its liability, so financial instrument failed to meet its liability and cause the other party to suffer a financial loss, so a company can face financial loss. The next credit risk is about potential credit risk concentration. The company financial assets that have significant potential credit risk concentration are mainly cash in bank and receivable. So corporate can be bankruptcy decision, and its type is financial risk. And then cost aircraft accident. Company can face risk loss of life and resulting damage to aircraft, and risk of costs caused by aircraft accident resulting in aircraft accident. So the loss is repair cost and unit cost for accident victim, and risk type is financial risk.
For the aviation delays and baggage loss and damage, it will decrease of a level of trust in the company with risk code F1. The risk agent is passenger will feel disappointed because they have been harmed and demand compensation. and then it will lose of declining reputation and trust in the company, and risk type is market risk. And then for aircraft fleet availability, the risk is increased rent debt with risk code G1, breaking the comparison contract, and the loss is high operational cost, and risk type is financial risk. And then for main risk, spare parts availability and high cost of fleet maintenance, the risk is requires a lot of operational costs for aircraft maintenance, and the risk again does not fulfill the obligation of the terms and conditions of the contract, and it will the loss of high operational costs, and the risk type is operational risk.
And then the next risk is about airport usage charge with the risk increase the cost of using airport facilities, and the risk code is E1, and risk agent is high number of flights of AirAsia company and group, and the loss is high operational cost, and the risk type is financial risk. And then the next risk is cost increase and availability of ground handling services, which is the risk is difficulty reduce ground handling services cost with the risk code is G1, and the risk agent is ground handling services company policy in increasing cost, and the loss is profit margin decrease, and then the risk type is financial risk. And then the second risk of cost increase and availability of ground handling services is about unavailability of ground handling services with the risk code is J2, and the risk agent is high demand for ground handling services from various other airlines, and the loss is decline in airline service quality, and the risk type is operational risk. And then the last is the seat price regulation and other auxiliary services, which is the risk is failure to implement promotional strategies and additional service strategies, and the risk code itself is K1, and then the risk agent is changes in government policy on seat price fixing at any time which suppresses airline ticket prices, and the loss is decreased number of ticket sales and loss market potential, and the risk type is operational risk.
Okay, so the next one is aircraft fuel price risk. PT AirAsia Indonesia Tbk is potentially exposed to the risk of aircraft fuel prices arising from fluctuation in aircraft fuel prices. Next.
Okay, the next is foreign currency risk. The company encourages foreign exchange risk due to lease and other debts denominated in US dollar. Foreign currency risk is the risk of the change in the rupiah's exchange rates as the reporting currency against foreign currencies, in particular the US dollar. The company doesn't have a formal hedging policy on foreign currency risk. So the company trade payables represent third parties. Trade payables consisting of airport services, aircraft maintenance, rental, advertising, and catering. Okay, next. The next is liquidity risk. In general, PT AirAsia Indonesia funding requirements for short-term and long-term liabilities are due from sales to customer. Liquidity risk is a risk where the company cannot meet liabilities at maturity. So the increase was mainly due an increase of provision for tax underpayment, provision for the redelivery of aircraft, interest from late payment charge, and other expenses.
Then the main risk is about credit risk. A credit risk is the possibility of a debt default as a result of a borrower's failure to make due payment. The corporate didn't even take any bank credit in 2020, although long-term bank loan debt were 227 billion in 2020. 17. In 2020, the company incurred cost was 314 billion, up 9.42% from 287 billion in 2017. The rest was mostly due to an increase in provision for underpayment of taxes, provision for aircraft free delivery, interest from late payment charge, and other expenditure. Next. And risks of cost caused by aircraft accident resulting in loss of life and resulting damage to aircraft. With the rising number of airlines in Indonesia supported by modern air transportation facilities, it is conceivable for unfavorable event to occur throughout the voyage. The sophistication of air transportation facilities is still the product of people who are always flawed. Therefore, unintended consequences such as aircraft damage or plane accident are unavoidable. It is inseparable from the hazard that may arise that may cause passenger accident when carrying passenger from the point of arrival of the passenger to the point of arrival of passenger at the targeted destinations. Since the inception, the company has insured all of its aircraft flight and engines to third-party insurance provider. In the case of a plane crash, the company also participated in the passenger insurance. Same all passengers on the company flight must adhere to this passenger insurance scheme.
And then risks of aviation delays, baggage loss, and damage. Based on ministerial regulation number 89 of 20 and 15 concerning handling of flight delays and scheduled commercial airforce companies in Indonesia, all domestic scheduled commercial flights are required to ensure costs incurred due to flight delay, loss, and damage of baggage. This is because not only harm the airlines but also causes losses to the passengers. And then for risks of aircraft fleet availability, the company undertaken to list its list of aircraft. The aircraft listing is based on long-term, mid-term, and condition that can be renewed by both parties. The advantage of leasing the aircraft with affiliate is the availability of the aircraft in accordance with the number and specification required by the company. For the risk spare parts availability and high cost of fleet maintenance, the company and AirAsia Group only operated Airbus A320 type of aircraft. The advantage of this availability parts is recorded in a relatively short time. This will reduce operational costs and costs that may arise due to non-operation of the aircraft. The company carries out lift maintenance to third parties. AirAsia Group carries out the process of appointing the provision of aircraft maintenance service central.
And then about risk of increase in cost of using airport facilities, about the companies in the field of aviation services cannot be separated from the activities carried out at airports. Almost all main business operational activities are carried out directly related to the airport. Therefore, the use of airport facilities is very necessary and is mandatory for companies in the field of flight service provider. And then is risk of cost increase and availability of ground handling services. Ground handling is a service related to the activities of aviation service companies in handling and serving passengers, as well as with baggage, cargo, postal, auxiliary equipment for aircraft movement, and the ground and flying while at the airport, departure and flight. Currently, the company uses ground handling services from third parties, and however, the company already has a subsidiary that specifically handles ground handling services. And the last is about regulatory risks for seat pricing and other additional services, which is changes and issuance of regulation governing flight seat prices and additional services may undergo changes periodically and at any time in the form of lower limits, upper limits, and limitation on the types of additional service offered. And change to this regulation may be affect the implementation of the company promotional business strategies and additional services.
And then determining risk level using qualitative ranking tools. The risk level is determined by multiplying the severity and likelihood of each. The procedures that must be complete before doing the calculation are the established a risk rating by. In this qualitative analysis metric, there is a description of its ranking number of 1 until 5, either in terms of severity or probability, where the greater of the severity value, the greater the significance of the risk of the company's goals.
Okay, so the next one is risk level assessment with qualitative method. Actually, the finding of the identification are then entered into probability and impact matrix to determine the intersection area. Each checkbox in the matrix is represented by a distinct color indication, with green color representing low risk, yellow representing moderate risk, and red representing served dangers. The following is the outcome of determining the likelihood, effect, and amount of risk that AirAsia faces. And the first one, this is the main risk is full price risk, and the risk here is aircraft for full price fluctuation, and the risk level is high risk because of the severity is 5 and the probability is 4.
The second risk is rupiah's exchange rate fluctuation. The risk level is medium risk with the points of severity is 3 and probability is 4. The third is cannot meet liabilities at maturity. The risk level is high risk. And the fourth is unhealthy cash flow with the risk level is medium risk. And the point is for severity is 4 and the probability is 2.
Next is about credit risk. From the risk instrument fail to meet its liability, risk code is D1 with severity 3 and probability 4, and its risk level is medium. Then potential credit risk concentration, risk code D2, severity 4 and has probability 4, and it's high risk. Then for the cost aircraft incident, the risk is loss of life and resulting damage to aircraft. Risk code is A1. It has severity 2 and probability 2, so it's low risk.
For the risk code F1, it belongs to risk level medium risk because the severity is 4 and the probability is 2. For the risk code G1 increase friendly, it belongs to low risk because the severity is 1 and the probability is 3. For the risk H1 requires a lot operational cost for aircraft maintenance. It belongs to low risk because the severity is 1 and the probability is 4.
And then is about the risk airport usage charge, with the risk is increase in the cost of using airport facilities, and the risk level is medium risk with severity is 3 and probability is 2. And then the cost increase and availability of ground handling services, with the first risk is difficulty reduce ground handling service cost, with the risk level is low risk, and the severity is 2, and the probability is 2. And then the second risk of cost increase and availability of ground handling services is unavailability of ground handling services, which is the risk level is medium risk, and the severity is 3, and probability is 3. And then the last is about set price regulation and other ancillary services, which is the risk is failure to implement promotional strategies and additional service strategies, and the risk level is medium risk, the severity is 3, and the probability is 2. And based on the metrics above, there are 3 types of risk level classification can be obtained, which are distinguished based on the calculation of severity and probability. And the following risk of group, the following is a risk grouping of PT AirAsia TPK based on its level. And the first is high level risk, which is the risk is aircraft full price fluctuation, cannot meet liability at maturity and potential credit risk concentration, which is the risk code is D2, C1, and A1. And then the medium risk, which is the risk is rupiah exchange rate fluctuation, unhealthy cash flow, instrument failed to meet its unavailability of ground handling services, increase in the cost of using airport facilities, failure to implement promotional strategies and additional service strategies, and decreased level of passenger trust in the company, which is the risk code is D1B1, J2, E1K1, F1G2, and then the last is low level risk, which is the require a lot of operational costs for aircraft maintenance and loss of life and resulting damage to aircraft, and then increased rent debt and difficulty reduce ground handling services cost, which is in the matrix is the risk code is H1, G1, A1, and G1.
And then there is analysis using semi-quantitative method. This is a tool that may be utilized in risk assessment and management. This semi-quantitative approach is classified into numerous forms, including fault tree analysis, event trees, and both sides.
Okay, so this is the event trees from risk A1, B1, C1, and C2. The first one is from A1. The risk is aircraft fuel price fluctuation, and the probability of increase the aircraft fuel price is 0.72, and second one, probability of no increase in aircraft fuel price is 0.918, and the third one, probability of no monopoly on fuel prices by Pertamina, and the distribution of inefficient fuel is 0.1.
The next is inventories for B1, rupiah's exchange rate fluctuation. The possibility of company experiencing increase in rental prices is 0.72. The next is the possibility of the company not experiencing increase in rental prices out of the value of the rupiah's depreciates is 0.8, and the possibility company not experiencing increase in rental prices and the value of rupiah's depreciates is 0.2. The next is inventories for C1 cannot meet liabilities at maturity. The possibility of company experiencing company bankruptcy is 0.48, and the possibility of the company not experiencing company bankruptcy out of failure to pay due debt is 0.12, and the last is the possibility company not experiencing failure to pay due debt and company bankruptcy is 0.4. And the next is inventory for C2, unhealthy cash flow. The possibility of company experiencing operational activity stop is 0.48, and the possibility in company not experiencing cash flow failure to meet operational needs and operational activity stop is 0.2. Next.
And then is inventory from risk day 1, day 2, A1, and F1. The first is day 1, it's credit risk. So instrument fail to meet its liability, the probability of the company experiencing financial loss and being declared bankrupt is 0.48. Then the probability company increasing financial loss but not declared bankrupt is 0.12, and the probability company not experience financial loss is 0.4. Then the credit risk instrument failed to meet its liability and face the next is inventory from day 1, day 2, A1, and F2. First is credit risk. It can cause instrument fail to meet its liability, so we have the probability of the company experiencing financial loss and being declared bankrupt is 0.48, and the probability company experiencing financial loss but not declared bankrupt is 0.12, and the probability company not experiencing financial loss is 0.4. Next, day 2 is risk of cost caused by aircraft accident resulting in loss of life and resulting damage to aircraft. The probability company lost their asset and bankruptcy decision is 0.54, and the probability company lost their asset but not corporate bankruptcy decision is 0.06, and the probability company not experiencing credit risk concentration is 0.4. Next, A1 is cause aircraft accident. So it can cause risk of cost caused by aircraft accident resulting in aircraft accident. The probability airplane has aircraft accident and have financial risk is 0.08, and the probability airplane has aircraft accident but not face financial risk is 0.12, and the probability AirAsia has no aircraft accident is 0.8.
And then for the risk code F1, decreased level of passenger trust in the company, the probability of declining reputation and trust in the company is 0.42. Probability of not declining reputation and trust in the company is 0.28, and the probability of no passenger will be disappointed because they have been the compensation is 0. And for the risk code G1, increased range debt, probability of high operational cost is 0.2, and probability of no high operational cost is 0.3, and probability of no breaking cooperation contract is 0.5. For the H1 requires of the operational cost for the aircraft maintenance, the probability of high operational cost is 0.2, probability of no high operational cost is 0.3, and probability of no fulfill the obligation of the term and condition of the contract is 0.5.
And then is the risk code is E1, which is increase in the cost of using airport facilities. With the probability the company get high operational cost is 0.42, and the probability the company doesn't get high operational cost is 0.18, and the probability the company doesn't have high number of flights is 0.4. And then J1, J1 itself is difficulty reduce ground handling services cost, which is the probability of profit margin company is decreased is 0.12, and the probability of profit margin company is not decreased is 0.28, and the probability of ground handling services company cost policy is increasing is 0.6. And then is the J2, which is the unavailability of ground handling services with the probability of decline in airline service quality is 0.56, and the probability of no decline in airline service quality is 0.14, and the probability of high demand for ground handling services from various other airlines is 0.3. And the last is failure to implement promoting strategies and additional services strategies, which is the probability of decreased number of ticket sales and lost market potential is 0.28, and the probability of no decreased number of ticket sales and lost market potential is 0.12, and the probability of changes in government policy on seat fixing price at any time which suppresses the ticket prices is 0.6.
And this in this chapter 3, it will present about solution. For the risk mitigation, the mitigation is an effort with the aim of minimizing of the impact of disaster by carrying out proper planning. Risk mitigation is divided in 3 categories: low risk, medium risk, and high risk, with the following information.
Okay, so after classifying the mitigation must go through the scale, the company also estimates the amount of fund spends to overcome the impacts that will be caused of the risks that will occur. Costs are divided into 3 groups, namely low cost, medium cost, and high cost. So actually for the first risk, full price risk is for high cost with strategy risk avoidance, and the risk mitigation is maintaining the hedging ratio to aircraft full price with the positive impact reduce the cost of the losses and adapt to market condition with the negative impact operational activity stability problems.
The next is rupiah's exchange rates fluctuation. The risk mitigation is the company has exposure in foreign currencies arising from its operational transaction. The positive impacts for this mitigation is exposure is at a level that acceptable. The negative impact is transaction hedging can reflect it in the report finance, and the cost is high. For the strategy is risk mitigation. The next is cannot meet liabilities at maturity. The risk mitigation for this risk is priority obligation to pay debt to creditors due debt. And the positive impact is can determine strategy to get paid debt. And the negative impact is not focused on growing the businesses. The cost is moderate and strategy is risk mitigation. And the fourth is unhealthy cash flow. The risk mitigation make a loan bank for things that really urgent or find investor. The positive impacts is loans made by the company will be more controlled. The negative impact is possibility of investment failure. The cost is moderate and the strategy is risk mitigation.
And the next is credit risk. The risk instrument failed to meet its liability. The risk mitigation is carry out debt reconstruction and good financial management. So the positive impact is the company is able to manage its cash flow properly and pay attention to its obligation. The negative impact is the company is too tight on cash flow from receivable generated, so that may decrease the number of loyal customer. The cost is high and strategy is risk mitigation. Next is about potential credit rate concentration. The risk mitigation is a policy of adding cash to trusted financial institution. The positive impact of this rate is the company is able to assess the company ability in the debt it has. But the negative impact is if the company focus on paying off debt, it tend to reduce the ability to grow the business. The cost is high and the strategy is risk avoidance. Next is cause aircraft accident. The risk is loss of life and resulting damage to aircraft. The risk mitigation is insure all aircraft flight and aircraft engine to third party participant in the passenger insurance program in the event of plane crash. The positive impact is the company pay attention to the safety of passenger and aircraft on its own. But the negative impact is the company pay a lot of money to pay for insurance costs. The cost is high and the strategy is risk acceptance.
And then for aviation delays, package and loss, the risk is decreased level of the passenger trust in the company. So the mitigation makes sure the flight schedule is according to plan and pay attention to the weather forecast. And the positive impact is passenger trust in the company will increase, but the negative impact, the company has to compensate and spend a lot of money. So the cost is moderate and the type risk is risk acceptance. For the aircraft fleet availability, the risk is increased rented, and the risk mitigation is leasing is based on the long-term contract with terms and conditions. The aircraft fleet ability is increased rented, leasing the base for the mitigation is leasing is based on the long-term contract with insuring all aircraft engines will insurance company, and the risk mitigation is well-maintained machines and facilities for passengers will get a more competitive price, but the negative impact is the company spend a lot of operational costs for maintenance. So the cost is high and the strategy is risk mitigation.
Then is the risk of airport usage charge, which is the risk is increase in the cost of using airport facilities. The risk mitigation is cooperating and coordinating with airport destination with terms and condition. And the positive impact of risk mitigation is getting more competitive price, and the negative impact is companies need to adjust for possible negatives on the terms and condition of cooperation, and the cost is high, and the strategy is risk mitigation. And then the cost increase and availability of ground handling services, which is the first risk is difficulty reduce ground handling services cost, which the risk mitigation is establish a subsidiary that specifically handles ground handling services, and the positive impact is reducing the company's operating cost to be lower, and the negative impact is the company spends expenses in setting up a subsidiary of ground handling services, and the cost is high, and the strategy is risk acceptance. And then the second is unavailability of ground handling services, which is the risk mitigation is established a subsidiary that specifically handles ground handling services, which is the positive impact is guaranteed availability and priority of service to airline companies, and the negative impact is lack of experience and coordination, which results in poor services, and the cost itself is high, and the strategy is risk mitigation. And the last is about seat price regulation and other ancillary services, which is the risk is failure to implement promotional strategies and additional service strategies, which is the risk mitigation is create a flexible marketing strategy plan and establish communication with regulator and association aviation business. And the positive impact is implementation of marketing strategies that can be adapted to all condition and contribute input in shaping policies. And the negative is a flexible marketing strategy may be less effective. And the cost is moderate, and the strategy is risk mitigation.
The risk register is used to monitor the risk management process in a project. The analysis and identification of the risks must be carried out in detail by company because there are several information that must be attached to understand the type of risks. For AirAsia Indonesia Tbk, there are risk identification, risk assessment, risk owner, risk treatment, and risk monitoring by the company.
Okay, so the next is for the first risk, full price risk. The action of the risk treatment is maintaining the holding ratio to aircraft full price, and the plan is managing operational activities related to finance, especially for aircraft full, with the method is periodic monitoring and analysis.
The next risk is the increase in the value of the rupiah depreciate. The action is renegotiate the lease with the lessor, and the plan is determine the plan exposure at acceptable value with methods periodic monitoring and analysis. The next risk is failure to pay due debt. Action for this risk is companies must pay debt in various ways, and the plan is carry out the negotiation and cooperation with the related parties, and the risk monitoring is periodic monitoring, analysis, and evaluating. The next is cash flow failure to meet operational needs failure. So the action is spread number of share funds. The plan is make calculation of the funds needed by each division,